Legends say heroes wield relics of unimaginable power, but not this one. Armed with nothing more than basic steel and humble magical trinkets, we're gonna defy the odds and face Hell's fury head on. Sanctuary will burn, even if our gear belongs in the dumpster. My name is Z, and welcome to the Dark Chronicles of Diablo. In this video, I'm going to be doing a challenge run that was voted on by you guys. I'm going to be wearing only white items and blue jewelry in my gear slots. The rules of the challenge are simple. I have to play in hardcore mode just like every other game. I have to find my own gear or find it in a vendor. I can wear only white items in every item slot except for rings and amulets, which can be blue. I can use charms just like in all my other playthroughs. Now, let's think about choosing a class. The Amazon would be a terrible choice as white-only weapons and shields would leave her pretty vulnerable. She's out. The Sorceress could be decent with her one-handed Sorceress Orb and like a shield, but she's going to struggle with resistances just like most other classes. The Barbarian would be a decent pick, as he can get resistances naturally, but his damage would be really low without proper weapons. The Necromancer could almost AFK through this challenge as a summoner, and would probably be the best choice, but I don't feel like playing a summon Necro. Assassin would be good with Fade, but let's skip all this talk and go to what I actually chose. Anyway, I chose the Paladin. He can gain skills with scepters, and his paladin-only shields can go all the way up to 45 resist all. He has plenty of auras for a variety of builds and is decently tanky. But before we jump in, I put out a bonus video for channel members on October 1st as a thank you for the support, so thanks again. I created my character and named him Ivory Knight, as he'll mostly be using white items. The Paladin starts with 25 strength, 20 dexterity, 25 vitality, 15 energy. We're mostly going to be concentrating on vitality. I set the game to players 8 and left the rogue encampment, looking for some fallen and zombies to kill to get some quick levels. I hit level 2 and decided in normal mode for this challenge, I'm going to use the Holy Fire build. This build consists of using the level 6 skill Holy Fire, which does a pulsing AoE fire damage to kill monsters around it. You max Holy Fire, then Resist Fire Aura, and then Salvation Aura in that order. I find my first charm in the Den of Evil. It's a grand charm with 5 poison damage. This works for now as I'm mostly doing melee attacks. I hit level 6 and put my first point into Holy Fire. The pulse damage currently is only 1 to 10 damage. I find some gloves and a sash from Charcy and continue my adventure. I start taking down Bloodraven as I need a mercenary. The mercenaries in this challenge can only use white items too. This challenge will make looting easy as I won't have to use runes, gems, unique gear, set items, or rares. Basically like 95% of the game I can't use. Bloodraven goes down and we can welcome Anor to the party. In the Stony Field I encounter some Champion Moon Clan who want to smack me around. Bad idea for them. I find Papa Smurf in the Stony Field and farm him a few times for some easy levels. Dude, I don't know why I keep calling Rakanishu Papa Smurf, but I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. Akara sells me a scepter with +1 to Holy Fire skills, and I make my way through the underground passage. This leads me to finding my first ring, which is a +1 to Dexterity ring. Ring number 2 is 1 magic damage reduction, along with my first amulet, which is a +2 to Dexterity. I slam the big hairy dudes, whoa, that doesn't sound right, and get the Scroll of Inifis. I find a new amulet upgrade in Tristram and rescue my grandfather Deckard Cain. He tells me about that one time I smeared cake all over the place and screamed at everyone, and I remind him it's only been a few years since my 30th birthday party and I don't really like that he brings this up in front of my viewers anymore. I find my first Paladin shield in the Black Marsh and I'm excited. 5 to all resistances and decent blocking rate makes me very happy. I find a 10 faster cast rate amulet in the jail level 2 along with a 10 to all resist paladin shield, which is a welcomed upgrade. In the cathedral, I'm met with a pack of dogs that want to blast my ass back into last Saturday. I end up slowly taking them out and also kill Mr. Bonash. And Dariel ends up being a cakewalk since she's weak to fire damage. The additional monsters end up being a pain in the ass, but when I'm actually hitting Andy, she's getting chunked. The drops were kind of crappy, but you know what? I can't use 95% of gear anyways, so who cares? At this point, good drops are just kind of depressing. In Act 2, I gave Enora a hug and wished her well, but it's time for my homie Asab to join the party. I chose the Prayer Aura to help with some sustain. Farah sells me some upgrades in the form of a full helm, chain boots, and superior light gauntlets, a belt, and scale mail. Radamant was the easiest fight of this entire playthrough. He died in like 3 hits. I announced my presence in the Halls of the Dead level 3 and everyone just falls over. I'm not sure what that's about, maybe a bad body odor, but I digress. I grab the cube and I head to the maggot lair. Coldworm the Burrower and his homies end up biting the dust and giving me the Staff of Kings. In the Claw Viper Temple, I find an 11 light resistance amulet, which I'll gladly use, and then I take the amulet of the Viper for safekeepings. I use an Identify scroll and get a 7 fire resist, 11 magic find ring. This is kind of ironic since magic find is fairly useless on a white items only playthrough, but the resist is nice, so I use it anyway. I told the summoner he can summon these nuts, but he doesn't like my sassy attitude and dies. I find the first set item in the Tomb of Tal Rasha, and it's a set belt. This is Hasaris Iron Stay, which I would love to equip, but this violates the rules of the challenge. I'll sell it for gold. Duriel, the Lord of Pain. I end up doing a ton of damage to him, but I'm also fairly squishy. Asab dies fairly early on, and I end up just kiting him around while my aura does the damage. It's a cheesy tactic, but hey, it works. He ends up dropping the first unique item of this run, a unique large shield. This is Storm Guild, which again will go straight to the vendor for some gold. Act 3, the Jade figurine drops about 100 feet from town for an easy 20 life. The second unique of this run drops right in the Spider Forest. It's a unique mace, which is Crush Flange. I find this mace so often in these playthroughs, its drop chance must be higher than most uniques in normal mode. Maybe I'm just lucky, I'm not sure. I'm going to do the math on it at some point, but that point is not today. I sneak past Zazark the Burning and grab the eye. I'm a savage, so I go back and smash his spider brains in anyway. I find this awesome 6 to life small charm, because every point matters in hardcore. I followed up for finding a crude pike. I don't think I've ever been excited about a low quality white item in my entire history of Diablo 2, but here I am excited about this piece of shit. My second set item drops, which is a bone wand. This is Sanders Superstition, which is a pretty cool wand, but banned in this playthrough. My third set item drops, but you've already seen this before. Yep, another Hasaris belt. More gold, please. I do the Gidbin quest, even though the crest reward ring is something I can't use anyway. I guess I like torturing myself with items I can't use. The ring was okay, nothing great, so I don't have too much FOMO. I make my way down to the Flare dungeon and find a poison resist small charm. I grab Kalim's brain and Asab kills Witch Doctor Ndugu to find our second unique item. Did I say second? I meant third. This one hurts a lot. It's the unique Heavy Gloves, which is Blood Fist. This is one of the best uniques in the game for normal mode. Dude, look at that 40 life. Look at that 10% increased attack speed. Look at that sexy 30% faster hit recovery. Look, it even has 5 minimum damage for melee playthroughs. And finally, look at how sad I am to toss it out. I had to fight Stormtree. It's my thing. I love killing this dude. Die, motherfucker. I don't want to see you anymore. Lamb Eisen's Tome? Thanks for the stats, baby. The High Council fight was full of Hydras, per usual. I used my aura, stayed a safe distance away. They all died without too much trouble. I walked into the Durance of Hate level 3, and all of the Bloodlords instantly died from my aura's damage. I'm at a power spike now that I'm doing some solid ass damage. Look at this Mephisto fight, dude. I am chunking him down. And Asab, even without life leech, is surviving this fight because of how fast Mephisto is dying. Nothing great for loot, not that I can use it anyway. Iswal was surrounded by souls and undead knights and venom lords. My aura chipped away at them, and once Iswal was isolated, he went down slow but steady. Dude, normal mode Iswal has so much damn health it's ridiculous. I just don't know why they did that. I enter the Chaos Sanctuary, and at the Infector of Souls seal, I get surrounded and I have to save and exit. Then I join a new game, I have to re-clear the entire Chaos Sanctuary, which really wasn't a problem, and then I fight Diablo himself. The Lord of Terror is a bit spicy. Asab dies fairly quickly and I have to run in circles while my aura is slowly chipping away at Diablo's health. He eventually dies and only really drops a set broadsword, which is Eisenhart's. I make my way up the bloody foothills and I fight Shake the Overseer. This quest is also useless on this challenge run, because if I socket one of my white pieces of gear, it'll turn gray with sockets and I break the rule of the challenge. I kill him anyway because he was in the way, and then I farm Eldritch for several levels like I always do. And then I head into the Crystalline Passage when I run into some champion Snowdrifters, which almost end the challenge run. I survive them, and I continue onwards to the Frozen River. In the Frozen River, I find a unique plate mail, which is something I usually get so excited about. I'm double excited when I see it's ethereal. This is Bone Flesh, which is an amazing armor to give your mercenary. It has attack rating, life leech, open wounds. Dude, I'm like drooling over this for like a few seconds, and then I wipe my tears away with a tissue and I have to move on, dude. Like, I can't believe I found that shit. Anyway, I decimated Frozenstein and his homies to save Anya's ungrateful ass. She always gives a +10 to all resist scroll, which is useful, and then some random rare paladin shield, which is useless for this challenge run. Atop Mount Ariat, I find the Ancients. This fight was pretty easy as Modok died ridiculously fast. Asab ends up keeping Talik pretty busy while I smack down Korlik. A few seconds after Korlik dies, Talik gets smashed and the Ancients are defeated. Wave 1 of Bale was easy, except for Kalenzo the Annihilator. He's always immune to fire, and with Decrepify on my mercenary, he just took a bit longer to kill. Wave 2 was a joke. All the skeletons died in the first pulse of my aura, and the Unravelers died a few pulses later. Wave 3 took a bit of time, but was manageable. We ran around, avoided the Hydra damage while my aura whittled them down. Wave 4 was much more challenging. The Venom Lords were much tankier than the previous 3 waves and took a fair amount of time to kill. I ended up going to Act 1 to respec for Wave 5 and Bale. I went with a Hammered In build so I could easily clear the minions of destruction in Bale. Speaking of Bale, here he is, the dude who always is laughing at me. Dude, I even tell terrible jokes and he still laughs. There's something seriously wrong with this dude. Anyway, I'm hammering into him with all my might. Did you get the paladin jokes? Asab and I are victorious. We have defeated normal mode with white items with blue jewelry. Let's go over my stats and gear. I have 70 strength, 60 dexterity, 120 vitality, and 15 energy. My blessed hammer with the aura on deals about 580 damage per hammer. I have 446 life, 87 mana, and my resistances are 31 fire, 51 lightning, 20 cold, and 23 poison. I have 7% faster run walk from an inventory grand charm. Here's my skill tree and where I spent my points on the respec. Lastly, here is my godly gear, dude. Scepter, full helm, gothic plate, targe, you get the idea. Bunch of crap. But here I am. Destroyer Ivory Knight. Not so shabby. I enter Nightmare at level 38, leaving the rogue encampment. I test out how strong I am on a little quill rat because beating up animals smaller than me makes me feel like a strong, manly man. I clear out the Den of Evil and use my respec to go into the Fist of Heavens build. I get a close call in the dark wood when an elite pack explodes all over my face. Treehead Woodfist starts challenging me to who can fist better, the Fist of Heavens Paladin or the Treehead Woodfist. I show him that I'm not one to play around with, and he dies, giving me a unique Fushina. I love this weapon. It's amazing. Kelpie Snare. But unfortunately, it breaks the rules of this challenge run, so I end up selling it to the vendor. I make my way to the outer cloister and into the barracks. There are fallen shaman to greet me there, and I run into the smith, who gets pummeled by my holy bolts. I find a grand charm of life, and then backtrack to the stony fields to save Cain. He's grateful and gives me identifying abilities. I find a unique great maul in the catacombs, which is Steel Driver. This maul's pretty sick, but again, uniques are banned in this playthrough. So, to Charcy it goes. And Dariel is super easy with this build. I'm able to spam holy bolts and heal my mercenary and damage act bosses at the same time. This makes the fights super safe with the mercenary tanking them, and the holy bolts kill them fairly quickly. She drops Eisenhart's sword, which is kinda trash. Radamint gets slammed by my holy bolts and gives me the Book of Skill. I find a white bill in the dry hills, which is an upgrade for my homie. I find the maggot lair and venture down into the buggy dungeon. My Fist of Heavens isn't doing great damage to them because they're not undead or demons, so I end up giving up and backtracking to normal mode terror zones to get more levels. I find a strength and cold resist small charm in the terrorized pit. In the Worldstone Keep, I find an Aaron shield with 19 resist all, which is a huge upgrade. I then proceed to get chased out of town by a clan of Deathlords who want to turn me into their next meal. Arcane Sanctuary is the next terror zone. I slay some ghosts, goats, and bloodlords. I find this godly 13 to all resist grand charm. Dude, this is an amazing find. I wish I found this every playthrough. I head back into Nightmare and into the Claw Viper Temple. Fangskin is pretty resistant to lightning always, so it took a while to kill him, and I grabbed the Amulet of the Viper. In the Palace Cellar, I get slammed by some big ogres, but somehow escape. Further down, Fire Eye and his tribe carve me up, and I politely save and exit. I find the Summoner, and I fist him until he's dead. Both charms around him end up being keepers. Duriel, the Lord of Pain. Same strategy as in Dariel. Spam Holy Bolts to keep Asab alive, and they'll pass through and kill Duriel. This build is one of my favorite boss killing builds for solo Self-Found, as it's very safe. Spiders still scare me in Act 3. I get the eye and get the hell out of there. Witch Doctor and Dugu gets annihilated, and I grab the brain. The heart below the sewers is easy as hell to get, and I move on to the council fight. Fist of Heavens is one of the best builds in the game for fighting these dudes. They're all grouped up, they're all demons, so they're all going to take tons of damage. None of them dropped anything crazy except a large charm with some life and resist. I'll take it. Mephisto might have been scary as I don't have a ton of resistances. Sometimes he can catch you off guard with a rightly placed blizzard and smash your health. I used the Holy Bolt strategy for the third time and he went down without a hitch. He dropped Goblin Toe Boots, but again, I can't use it. Iswal still has way too much life. I'm not going to bore you with this fight, so I'm going to clip it short. I took him down, which felt like 30 minutes, and got my +2 to skill points. Nightmare Hellforge didn't give me shit, which, to be fair, it doesn't really matter. I got a Dull Rune, and actually, who cares? I can't even use gems or runes on this playthrough. But, you know, I had to do the quest anyway because sometimes I get FOMO. Diablo was actually kind of funny. I tried to use the Holy Bolt strategy, but he just melted my mercenary way too fast to even try it. He stands still for like half of his attacks, so what I did was I just ran back and forth, dodging his attacks while shooting back Holy Bolts. This actually worked very well, and he was dead within like a minute or two. Alright boys, Act 5. I save Anya, get my +10 to resist all reward, and the rare shield she gave me was obviously decent, like better than my shield, but I can't use it. I killed Pindleskin for the lulz and headed up to Mount Ariat to fight the agents. Dude, these motherfuckers took forever. None of them are undead or demons, so my damage to them is pretty ass. Korlik went down first, which left me with Spinny Boy and Yeet Fuck. I killed Spinny Boy next, which left me with just Yeet Fuck. He has a ton of lightning resistance, so naturally, I knew this was going to be a long ass fight. I used a shit ton of potions and Fist of Heavens, and he eventually went down. Dude, that fight was just pure ass. At least I'm level 59 now. Alright, let's watch the Bale Waves. The first one was fairly easy with Cleanso going down pretty fast and all the little warped ones not too much of a challenge. The second Bale Wave was pretty similar to the first, except for Akimel took a bit longer to kill. He was just being really stubborn. The third Bale Wave was a bit spicier due to the Hydras, but the actual mobs themselves were fairly easy to kill. The fourth Bale Wave was just simple. I avoided the demon's bad breath that they try and spray at your face, and they fell over dead with some convincing. The last Bale Wave actually was insanely easy compared to what it usually is. They're usually like the tricky Bale Wave that, you know, they do a ton of damage, they're hard to CC, XYZ, ABC, 1, 2, 3, you get it. But they went down pretty fast. They actually have 0% magic resist, so they take the damage from Fist of Heavens and Holy Bolt pretty well. Bale himself was a joke. I spammed Holy Bolt and my mercenary died, but it didn't really matter. I just slammed his health bolt by bolt until he laughed himself into his own grave. I beat Nightmare with being level 60. I had 72 strength, 83 dexterity, 155 vitality, 95 energy. My Holy Bolts are doing about 2400 damage. I have 663 life, 257 mana. My resists are 35 fire, 75 lightning, 63 cold, and 44 poison. My secondary stats are 7% faster run walk from a charm, and you can ignore the regenerate mana since it's just from the aura I have on. Here are my skill points. I'm not going to go over them, but you can check it out. Here's my gear. It's all still pretty shitty white gear with 2 magic rings and a magic amulet. That's it, boys. I beat Nightmare mode. I am now Conqueror Ivory Knight. Alright, I need to come clean. I didn't make it far into hell, so let's just cover that now instead of making a very short video about it next week. After defeating Bale, I went back into the Nightmare Terror Zones and started clearing out the Flare jungle. I was level 60, but I need some more levels before getting into hell. I knew my gear couldn't really get much better, but the levels themselves would help with my health and damage output. I found a unique Gothic plate, which is Rattle Cage. I would have loved to use that on my mercenary for Crushing Blow, but I just left it where it was. Here I am, hitting level 64 in the Flare jungle. I'm getting a little more beefy for sure. I was farming the Worldstone Keep and got level 65. Then Terror Zone switched to Chaos Sanctuary. I couldn't resist that shit, as that place is the Fist of Heaven Paladin's dream farming spot. I killed so many dudes in there, and I got up to level 68 or so. Alright, I'm headed into hell at level 68. I test my damage on some dudes in the Bloodmore, and I seem to be doing alright. I start clearing out the Den of Evil for my skill point, as I am still doing fine damage-wise. No real scary risks up to this point. My dumbass respecs into Hammerden after the Den of Evil, even though nothing was going terribly as a Fist of Heaven's Paladin. In the underground passage, I am getting seriously fucked up. Every archer pack is slamming my ass as I have to get close to them. I should just be shooting holy bolts from afar as a Fist of Heaven's Paladin. Dude, they have nutty affixes like extra strong and cursed, and overall, it's just not a good time. This is a great example of I should have taken the hint and gone back to Nightmare or something for some levels, but nope, still pushing onwards. I finally met my match, and these skeletons pounded me into the dirt, and my deeds of valor will be remembered. Oof. Alright, and if you've made it this far, thanks for watching. You are amazing. No, seriously, thank you. I make Diablo 2 videos every week, hardcore solo soulfound, so check out my channel and subscribe if you like this type of content. Comment below if you've made it this far, that way I know that you're a real OG and made it to the end of the video. The code word this week is sentiment. And as always, thank you to my members of the Guardian Gang. I appreciate your support. That's all I got for today. Z is out. Peace.